Welcome to Triple H, Hamilton Happy Hour, where we talk about pianos, talk about music, and everything else in between. Hey everybody, welcome to Hamilton Happy Hour. We are joined with, once again, Mike and Mike.
Hey y'all.
Hey everybody.
And we are joined with my good friend, Ben Cross.
How's it going?
Ben comes from, lives in Boca. He has family in Boca, but he is living now in New York, working for a piano dealership, and has had a pretty impressive journey through his piano technology world, right? I mean, if you call it that, I guess.
Exciting.
Yeah, exciting.
Thrilling.
Ben, this podcast is about you, so we'd like the people to know about kind of where you started, why you got into being a piano technician, and so on and so forth.
Sure. My name's Ben Cross. I grew up in Boca Raton. I live in Queens now, in Astoria, right next to the Steinway factory. I've been there for about 6 or 7 years, something like that. And I work on pianos 40-something hours a week. Running around like a banshee, just putting out fires. It's good. I did my bachelor's in music at FAU in the commercial music department, music technology. After that, I did 2 years of trade school at the North Bennett Street School, which is a old trade school in New England where they have many different trades: cabinet and furniture making, jewelry making, preservation carpentry, locksmithing, violin, lutherie making. And then they have 2 separate piano technology programs, 9-month tuning, repair, regulation course, kind of geared towards passing the registered piano technician's accreditation class or test. And then the second year, which is more hands-on rebuilding, where you take out the belly of a piano and kind of put it back in and do action rebuild. And it's slow. There's pluses and minuses to it. I was grateful for the experience. I'm grateful to have had other experience to kind of put the theoretical knowledge to use. We can talk more about that later. But yeah, after my schooling, I saw an opportunity to work at the Steinway factory for the music technology department, which was fortuitous for me because my bachelor's degree was in commercial music technology, and the department that hired me at Steinway was the music technology department. And the person who had come to our school to kind of recruit for this position had gone to 4 years bachelor's in music technology. For me, music technology was audio engineering and production. So back in, let's say 2008 to 2013, there was a pretty large jazz club in Meisner Park called Jazz Is Nightlife.
Oh,
they had, I was the head audio technician there for 2.5 years at the age of 19 to 22. I used to go there late at night to wrap microphone cables, and then actually the head technician got really upset. We had Rick Springfield coming that day. It was 12 o'clock, and he ripped all of the cables out of the mixer. He put his keys on the desk, and he walked out. And the manager looked at me. They're like, "You know how to run this thing, right?" And kind of lying through my teeth, I said yes. And I spent the next 4 or 5 hours just figuring out the signal flow for the whole concert hall. And what was cool about that is once everything has broken and you've fixed it, you know how to fix everything, right? And it's like, he did me the favor of breaking everything on day one, right? So then I kind of just had to now I actually know this. And then I had that gig, like I said, for 2.5 years. I got to work with Sergio Mendes. I got to work with the Manhattan Transfers. I got to work with Alan Holdsworth, who's this crazy metal shredder guitar player. And then the club shut down. This was my 3rd or 4th year of college. I was doing both at the same time, which was great because it was what I was talking about. I was getting the theoretical stuff during the day, and I was getting the hands-on practical skills at night. Right?
Best of both worlds, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can do one without the other, but one can certainly guide the other, because there are times when you're doing something in your hands and your conscious speaks, and it's that lesson or that lecture, that thing you read in a book, and it's like, oh, this is the
Not
moment.
just in a book.
Right. But then sometimes you're reading a book and you're like, what is he guys talking about? I have no idea what this is. And you read it 3 or 4 times or 5 times over, and you're like, I just don't get it. And then you do it once, and you
now
read
I
it
get
again,
it.
and you're like, oh yeah, this, that, and the other thing.
Yeah,
right?
brings it all together.
A little bit, and like that's what someone like Fernando has, right? Like he's been doing it long enough that he's had the time to think about it. Maybe not in school, but he's definitely approached it theoretically. But he's also had the time for his hands to kind of guide him. And I had the chance. I've heard about this man for a very long time from many different people. And just to share 2 hours with him next to him to watch.
Is
his
this the first
hands.
time you'd met him?
Yeah, it's the first time I
Oh,
put a
is that
face to
right?
a name. Yeah, and
Oh, cool.
and thank you for that, Toby. That was
problem.
that was great.
He took a shine to you. You know, I could tell there's something. Fernando's easy to get along with, regardless. But I can tell when he takes a shine to somebody. And you were building the jig, for doing the cutting the key, and he saw that, and we went, to the other route with the saw. But you two had a lot in common with the amount of people that you knew, and then kind of you have the similar story as he has with the companies that he's worked for and you've worked for. So you guys had a lot in common with that.
I think another thing we have in common, and it's you too, and I think it's everybody, even though we come from different places, is just this like love for piano, right? And it's like we kind of put that before everything else. I mean,
for sure,
you're
yeah.
working till like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, pretty regular. So it sounds it's like
We can.
It's not odd.
Yeah.
yeah. So it's like, man, you don't keep showing up at like 5 o'clock late at night with a smile on your face unless you really love it.
Yeah.
So.
And
We consider ourselves the ambassadors for pianos.
Yes.
So it's interesting, right? Because the technicians spend all that time, love, care on the instrument here. I mean, an instrument could be here for how long getting worked? Who knows, right?
Months and months and
but
months.
often
easily.
it's
6, 8 months, sometimes 2 years. I mean, it all depends.
right, and it's often y'all are the ambassador, right? You're the person, potentially the movers. I'm guessing sometimes you move pianos, yeah? Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're the,
Sometimes.
right? I didn't want to.
Sometimes we paint too. I'm just saying.
But often,
sometimes we're painters.
yeah, often you're the ambassador. That's very well put.
Yeah. The caretakers, the ambassadors, but I used to say caretakers, but we kind of went to ambassadors as it comes to, since we got the podcast and all that now. And how
That sounds better.
It does sound a little better.
It's funny. I'm thinking about being in New York near the United Nations, and we've got the ambassador of Hamilton Piano here to speak at the General Assembly. We need less tariffs for pianos, please. More pianos. Sorry.
Less tariffs on soundboard, please.
Yeah, that's right. So your soundboards are coming. That's wow.
Yeah. I mean, well, actions come from Germany.
Yep.
Strings come from Germany. The good thing with Germany, even if the tariffs went up, it's under a certain dollar amount. So the strings don't get, those tariffs.
We just order one at a time.
So that's interesting, right? I think we were talking a little bit about this at lunch, right? And I'm not very political, so I apologize. But at a time when there are a lot of tariffs, it is advantageous for rebuilders who have the pianos here, less so for the parts, but also for the used piano people, right? Where you don't need to bring new parts in.
Right.
All the pianos in here, you're able to put your domestic manufacturing skills to work
Correct.
instead of outsourcing the work to a third-party rebuilder.
Who outsources?
It happens.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no, it happens.
No,
right?
I'm aware.
Yeah.
We don't, so we don't know how
yeah.
that feels.
Yeah, no, there's
what I was
people
getting
people ship pianos,
Yeah.
not
Iowa.
overseas or over
Yeah.
country lines.
Yeah.
to
Or
get
even
rebuilt.
more so, they bring pianos from other markets in,
Yep.
right? And then the market gets flooded.
Oh,
So,
absolutely.
so the piano may not be made in the USA, but it is rebuilt in the USA.
Yeah.
Yep.
Maybe we should put a stamp on them.
Yep.
Rebuilt in USA.
Proudly rebuilt in the USA.
Not terrible.
Put our logo on it.
Yep. Stamp it. And that's the lick and the stamp.
So for me, being at the Steinway factory. So yeah, I was in the music technology department, and after that, I went into yeah, please,
okay.
yeah.
So
yeah.
the music technology department at Steinway, what does that mean at Steinway?
Great question. That department's main focus was integrating Spirio, Steinway's proprietary player piano, into the production line. So it was kind of the research and development department. And then once they figured out how to get the player piano in the piano, we figured out how to methodize it, and then get it into manufacturing. Because the manufacturing people are busy building pianos. They can't figure out how to build the piano. They have to be told how to build the piano, kind of.
Sure.
Especially when it comes to the technology. You have calibration errors. You have parts that weren't made properly and need to be swapped out. There's a lot that goes on into the electric side of things. And at the end of the day, Steinway is an acoustic piano manufacturing facility. That's only, I mean, geez, I'm going to get in trouble for saying all this. But no, I mean, they're only 10, 15, 20 years into the player piano game, and they're doing extraordinary. I mean, their product is amazing.
Yeah, it's really good.
It's really expensive, but it's really good.
Was there some animosity within, I would imagine, among the builders, and stuff like that? Because I'm sure a lot of those guys that have been doing what they've been doing for decades and decades, all of a sudden now you're asking them to throw in this whole new thing into the works.
Yeah. So, yes. Yeah. It affected everybody a little bit.
You don't have to name names.
No. Sure.
But what I'm thinking is, like in the OPs, they've been putting players in for years.
With the scroll players, and then they stopped in about the
Correct.
20s, 30s,
Yeah. I don't think anyone's still at the factory from those days.
No, but I'm just saying, I mean, they were doing it for a
Certainly.
long time.
Yeah.
So
There's
it
this really
shouldn't
cool
be-
book. It's called the Bible. At least that's what everyone calls it, the Steinway Bible. And it's the book.
John 3:16 and all that good stuff.
It's Henry. Henry Steinway.
3:16.
there is a John Steinway.
There's a John. Yeah, John was Henry's dad, right?
His brother.
Oh, his brother. Okay.
You know the lineage better than I do.
Yeah. So, and Steinway started out as Steinweg.
Steinweg.
Yep. Instead of Steinway, and then when they came here to the States, they changed it to Steinway.
Yeah.
So
But-
the
so-
right way, the wrong way, and the Steinway.
Right.
Which one do you do?
My way.
Hamilton way. The Hamilton
None of
way.
the above.
I did it my way.
Oh God, he's gonna start singing. Yeah. So in this book, the Bible, it's kind of the recipe, right? And I haven't read the Bible, but I would assume
Do you have a copy of it?
I can't disclose that information.
I'm going to Barnes and Noble straight from here.
Or the copy center.
We only have 142 viewers, so you're fine.
So far.
This is going to be a good one.
But who are the viewers?
That's true. That's true.
We don't know.
They don't send us letters, so.
I would assume that there's some information on how they made cuts and how they built the R pianos back in those days. But everything that's been doing now is it's kind of what people do with the retrofit, and then figure out how to make it not a retrofit, and then ultimately, I think at this point, 75% of the case sales are Spirio. Spirio is what's keeping that company alive, right?
Yeah, I've noticed that.
Is there animosity? Yeah, but it's also what's keeping the doors open. Would there be more animosity if everybody got laid off? Yes.
For sure.
So, like,
Steinway is smart for doing it for two reasons. One, disc clavier, Yamaha, been doing it for decades. And two, Steinway dealers all over the world were putting in other player systems. So why not Steinway just do it themselves?
and three, most people, most of my customers who can afford a piano that's that expensive isn't a musician.
Right.
I'm sorry.
And the
They're-
extra
they're-
for the Spirio for them is not that big of a deal either.
No, and that's how they're going to get the use out of their piano. And that's what they're going to get to show off to their friends at the cocktail party that look at my Steinway.
Yep.
And that gets them, that's why they're more up to buying it, because it's either a piece of furniture at that time without the player, or now it's a musical instrument with the player.
That they have access to that they otherwise didn't. Don't get me wrong. I have one customer in Greenwich, Connecticut, who's got a mansion with 4 front doors, and I always pick the wrong one. And I walk into the right, and they've got a Boson door for 1.5 something. I don't know what, 160, 140, something like that. And then you take like a 2-minute walk to the other hall, and they've got a Fazioli concert grand in like the library, 2-story. And I was like, oh my God. This is a person who's buying a high-level piano and is a musician and is using it, right? These are like the old money people who like don't need to have, and I think there's enough of those people around to keep some of these big piano companies in business. I hope so.
yeah.
We need it.
Oh, yeah.
right.
Like,
Absolutely.
the
There definitely
industry,
is.
the industry needs it.
In the right markets for sure.
Right.
Like New York is, New York and Palm Beach are helping the piano business along. Just
And
with
I
the
think it's important for
locations.
everybody, really, because some people will never get to own those pianos. It's just I'll only get to touch those pianos because I'm a laborer, right? My only access to those instruments is by working on them. But you go onto the concert stage and you hear that top piano, and then you go to your local piano dealer and you work with them and you find something that's right. You find something that makes you feel like you're able to access that same color and that same energy as when you're sitting in the concert hall. But it's also, I mean, come on, we don't all have $300,000 to drop on a piano. I mean, I don't.
What?
Close.
Sorry.
Close, but
We're
It's
this
crazy.
close. We don't even have one in the showroom.
But also looking at that stuff, right? With $300,000, get a bunch of U1s.
Yeah.
Start a school. I don't know.
Exactly.
Help people.
One less diamond in the ring could feed a few people.
It's a difficult part of the industry for me a little bit. Sometimes I have to open up the showroom in Manhattan, and there's a homeless guy sleeping out in front of it, and 6 o'clock in the morning, and he's cold, and I gotta get to work. So I'm like, hey, buddy, move. But like, also, he's warm and he's dry, and like I'm going in there to like tune some unison so some rich guy can have a toy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Get out of my way.
I gotta get paid.
Yeah.
Well, it's also too, if that guy, that homeless guy was still there when that rich person came, how did he treat him? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Think about it. It's okay obviously it's okay to be rich and have the money to do whatever you want with it. But if you do good with it, for yourself and for others, great. If you only do it for yourself, not so great. Because there's so many people in this world that need help. Obviously that guy is one of them. So if he was still there when that customer came in, is that rich customer going to be, act like that? Or is he going to be like, here you go, buddy, or
Go get something to eat.
right.
Or let me bring you something. Hold on, let me come back and bring you
And
something.
to be fair, I'm not just saying this because I'm on camera. It's a little weird for me because he literally sleeps in the alcove. Like
Right.
it's not possible to get in
gotta get out of the
until
wind.
he like puts everything in his bag and packs up. So I'm like, hey buddy, takes a couple nods. Okay, I gotta go to work. I'm gonna go get a coffee. I'll be back in 5 minutes. I go get both of us a coffee. I come back.
That's
he
cool.
has it because I don't want to stand over
Yeah.
him and like stuff like that. Like
Yeah,
I let him
yeah.
have
Try
his
to warm him
dignity.
up.
Yeah, exactly. Give him his drink, and then I go tune unisons for rich people.
So that's one of the things that this business affords us. We get to see the excesses, you know what I mean? And we go, to the richest of the rich people in the world. And then we go to somebody who's literally a starving artist, can barely afford to get whatever piano they can. So we see the full spectrum, and we're on the road nonstop. We've got a relationship with one of the homeless guys that we know by name, and we talk to him every day. And so it's like, we're on Palm Beach, and we're, rubbing elbows with the Estee Lauder residents yesterday. And then 2 hours later, we're talking to the homeless guy on the street. Like, what's up, brother? How you doing?
You're part of the community.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
It's-
and think about this. That guy may be richer than you think.
yeah.
There's people that have money in his backpack.
He's smarter than you think.
Yeah.
He's definitely
He's
smarter than
paying
you
less
think.
rent than most people in New York City.
He was going to buy a shirt the other day. He goes, I said, new shirt? Yep. What else am I going to spend my money on?
Yeah.
Yeah. I said, oh, okay.
Something to be said for that, right? Because I had a transition. My education in piano technology has prevented me from being homeless. How about that? It's let's talk about that for a minute.
Well, it's a good business. If you treat it right, it will treat you right. That's the key. When you're in it for the money, it's not going to treat you right because you are focusing on the wrong aspect of the business. You can have a good profession, you can have a comfortable life being in the piano world, but if you're only in it for the money, get out.
Yeah.
The reason why is because you're not doing due diligence to yourself or to the instrument when it's only about that.
And you don't have a very good game plan. If you're coming here to get rich, you're barking up the wrong tree.
Yeah. So talk about that. Let's talk about the other side of the spectrum, right? The not getting it to get rich. What I said, I meant specifically my education in piano technology has prevented me from being homeless. I'm not talking about the top end of the threshold, right? There's a lot of people these days who invest wholeheartedly into an education that they can't use,
Sure.
Oh,
All
absolutely.
the time. All the
Right.
time.
Yep.
right?
There's another bunch of thousands of them getting ready to graduate.
Graduate.
next
Yeah,
next
right.
week.
What is it? Yeah, it's almost May.
Yeah,
right?
right.
Yeah.
Graduation time.
Yep.
So there's a whole bunch of them getting ready to get shot
With
out
a
into the
tuning
world.
hammer and a felt triangle, I can go to any state in the country and say, "Hey, I need dinner tonight. You got
Yep.
a piano I could tune?"
Yep, for sure.
Because you did your due
Not
diligence and
because-
paid your dues, you know how to do it the right way. That's the thing
Yeah,
too.
but I'm speaking a little bit generally, not specifically about piano tuning. I think what I'm speaking about is a
Not being homeless.
Yes, most importantly, and by way of reinvesting in the trades.
Correct.
You know, I think that having
Big time.
having a trade and being proud of a trade. It's interesting looking at other countries and the way they run it. Right, Germany, Switzerland, I believe France. A lot of these European countries have state pay for apprenticeships. One of the employees of your company came from the Steinway apprenticeship, which was a program that was invented to try and be similar to the European model, right? Take people off the streets who have no piano knowledge, put them in a manufacturing environment, give them skills, and now they have a career. Now they have insurance. I know one of the other apprentices who is still there. His whole family now works at the factory. They
Oh, wow.
created a little micro economy. It's awesome.
Oh, that's cool.
That is.
It's super cool. And to be honest, Toby, you're doing that here. It's amazing. You're taking people off the streets with basically no piano knowledge, but you see their acuity from these other skills and trades, and you're giving them a trade. It's special, really.
And it's different. It depends too, because everyone kind of comes in, some with no experience, some with little experience, some with massive experience, like you guys. And the thing is that with certain people, it's like, can you train them or can't you? There have been people that I thought, I don't know how this is going to work out. Within a few months, I'm like, oh, we found your niche. We know exactly where your positives are, your strengths, because everyone has strengths and weaknesses. So with that, it's also taking the time to find that out. So going from place to place to place within the workplace here and finding out what you're good at and what you're not, and so on and so forth. And that's hard.
But that
because-
mimics the apprenticeship beautifully,
Right.
That gives a general knowledge, which is basically acuity coming from outside of the place. And then you do your rotations and you figure out where are you going to spend the rest of your 40 years building pianos. Look at Fernando. He's shaped like the piano. Yeah. It's all of us. My right shoulder's a little high. Yours probably too, unless you're left-handed. I don't know.
No,
No? You're good?
yeah, I think so.
I think I'm a little asymmetrical from too much tuning.
Well, I'll let you know tomorrow after my arm. But there's a need in our profession, for younger guys like yourself to get into it, because, like you talked about earlier, you like showing other people things and teaching and this and that is very commendable in the sense that there's a lot of people that don't. I mean, back in the day, piano technicians, when I first got into the business, they didn't want to show me stuff.
I have bad habits of not asking people questions because of stories I was told. I watched a belly man leave our last company, and he looked at me. He's like, "You're an idiot." Why am I an idiot? He's like, "I would have told you anything. All you had to do was ask." I was afraid you were going to say no.
But that's the aura and the stigma that it was out there, because the guys that were a piano tuner, okay, I'm 19 years old, I'm a piano tuner, and people are looking at me like, who are you? At your age, even though my family had a good reputation, for those that didn't know my family, it was for me because they were expecting a 60-year-old guy to come in and tune the piano. But there were also at that time where these guys were brought up decades before us, that they grew up differently. So they were kind of like, it was like my mom. My mom had a lot of stuff. She was not a hoarder, but kind of a hoarder, but it was like a clean hoarder, like everything was neat and orderly, but she had a lot of stuff. But that's because as she grew up, she had nothing growing up. So she kept as much as she could. She was very frugal, but she would buy nice knickknacks and things like that. And I think in that time period, that's what people do. I'm going to hold on to this knowledge, and you can't take it with you, So the best thing you can do,
sort of the greatest generation, that World War II generation, the Great Depression guys, that when I got into the business in the early 90s, I could see it in the technicians.
Maybe there were just too many of them, the whole baby boomer thing.
Maybe.
Well, they just had to be competitive. There was limited amount of
was
opportunities.
huge back then still, and so.
And maybe they had run-ins with other technicians, and they I don't know if I said this story before, but my grandfather told my father this story about this guy that was teaching this other guy how to tune a piano. And my grandfather says, "What are you doing? Why are you teaching him?" And he says, well, because he asked and he wanted to learn. My grandfather said, "Well, you're creating your own competition." And he goes, "Oh, no, it'll be okay." Well, that tuner that learned from the other tuner ended up moving right next door to him, literally, and was now his competition. So I get it to that point, but there's also got to be hey, listen, I'm here to help, not hurt. Cooperate, not compete.
Right.
You got to be like that, because you're going to get so much further in life, not just in the piano world, in everything in life. We're stronger together than apart. And fortunately, I think that has completely changed. I don't think it's like that at all. PTG conventions, they are really just open to helping educate, and especially the older people, even for myself, that they're showing us, tricks that was like, oh man, because there isn't a technician alive, I don't care how old you are, that doesn't have a trick that another technician doesn't know. It's
for sure,
because the piano is so complex that they came up with a trick. You have some, I won't say what it is, but they're freaking phenomenal.
And Fernando had never seen that before. He said today, 50-something years into it, he's like, even I learned something.
Yeah.
And I watched him do like 9 different things. It really wasn't fair. I gave him 1. He gave me 9. Whatever.
But he loves stuff like that too. And part of the reason why this shop is where it is today is a few reasons. One, because Andy Lustig told me to reach out to Fernando. So I reached out to Fernando. Fernando and I started working together, became very good friends. Fernando, I said, I want to do soundboards. He says, call my buddy Misael, blah, blah, blah. So that's how this shop got here. But it also got here with the tricks and the different, out of the box thinking that we do here is because of Fernando. Because he was making his own tools. He was making jigs and he was doing this. And I'm thinking, man, this is so brilliant, what he was doing. So it made me start thinking more like, Toby, what can you come up with? What can you do? So really, all those things that I've come up with here is probably stems from Fernando, because I watched him make things, and I can't do what he can do. It's impossible. But there's things that he can't do what I can do. Now if he was my age, he probably could do it a lot better than I can at my age. But that's where it's kind of like that motivation of now he sits there and thinks, the things we're building are incredible, but that's where that stems from, that part of it. But that's paying it forward. He could have easily he was retired from Steinway, retired from being a piano tech. He moved 10 minutes from our old shop and came in and he loves the piano. He loves to work.
It's so evident.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm watching him. He's 80-something. He's like tossing one tool from the other. He's like whistling. He's like tapping his. I'm like, Jesus, when I grow up, I want to be just like him. Yeah.
And that's because he loves what he does, And here's the thing.
He also loves it here too.
Yes.
I mean, how can you not? Toby, you've made it so effortlessly for me to just like sit down and get to work. I mean, it's one of my favorite things. Like to be able to achieve flow state so easily. Yeah, that's cool.
Nice.
Well, everything's got to be at your fingertips. It just has to. But with Fernando, if you really think about it, 50 years he's been in the business, over 50 years, I think it is. and he still loves doing what he's doing. There's something to be said about that. Now, he's not doing it like he did, because he would tell me he'd work 16, 18-hour days, and he really worked when he was young, and that's why he was able to retire and blah, blah, blah. But he still likes doing it. Now, there are times that I hear him when he's working on something, and he gets frustrated, but that happens to all of us. But he still loves it. And we're always here to, okay, let's help you get that action out of the car. Let's help you get the action in the car. We need a table, we get you a table. You need us to cut that, we'll cut that. Because one time he almost cut his fingers off using the table saw.
Yep.
The beauty too is that, like, he'll come in and he's building something like for his kitchen or in his workshop or whatever at his house. He's like, I need this piece of wood and I need this. Here you go. It's yours, and he does. This is like his personal Home Depot,
Yeah.
So, but paying it forward.
You can pay it backward too.
Yeah. But you got to do that. We have to do that.
Yeah.
Because if not, then why are we here? I mean, if you really kind of think about it, what are we doing? We're just doing it for ourselves. That's not what we're here for.
It shouldn't be a competition. It should be a community.
Right.
And, and look at the factory. There's not one person following the piano from beginning to end.
No.
And here in the shop is quite a manufacturing environment, and I mean that in the best of the ways. It's hard to have one person follow a piano in a manufacturing environment because the system is just so complex, and you need to spend someone like Fernando's that many years to really truly be a master in all the different facets. It's easier to just focus on one thing over and over and over and over and get really good at that one thing. But yeah, this space it's a great hybrid, because in that side of the wall, it's very manufacturing. And then on this side of the wall, it's very showroom, concert prep, get it ready for the customer. And I think this side of the wall, you'd probably have to be a little bit more, I don't know, like you showed your toolbox. You got every tool in that thing. You just walk up to the piano and it's done. As opposed to like table saw, band saw, rip it out, put new in, new felts, new everything. So it's great. This place has it all. I'm really impressed, Toby. Really, very impressed.
Well, 10 years ago, you said you were going to come down here and work with us. And then you said
look,
it like
here
8 years ago for 3 days.
He's still working with you.
Little by little.
That's
right.
But that's the community too. Like, we needed someone in New York. Give you a call.
Just
You
like
said,
that.
"Yep, boom, boom, boom." So, that's how it is. And if we, perfect example. When Andy first told me, hey, my buddy moved down here from New York. He's the best action and damper guy in the country. His name's Fernando Osorio, and you need to call him. I'm like, Andy, I do all my own stuff. That's me now. I'm young. I'm what, probably 30, I think, at the time.
Yeah, about
30-ish. And I said, Andy, I do all my own stuff. I don't need anybody. And then, I don't know, a day or two went by, or maybe I called him right away. I don't know. I said, let me call him. And then he shows up. And I remember it like it was yesterday. It's just one of those things you don't forget. Back at the old shop, one shop was here. There's a driveway and parking lot, and the other shop was here. So I'm walking back from the showroom or the soundboard area, across the parking lot, and this guy pulls up and he goes, "Do you know where there's a piano shop around here?" I said, "Yeah, it's my shop. It's right here. Just park right over here." Blah blah. And then Fernando walks in and he goes, "Moisey, what are you doing here?" Because Jean-Claude Moisey from Steinway, him and Fernando both worked there at the same time. And Jean-Claude was the one that taught me how to do refinishing, and helped me, taught me how to strip pianos and sand them and start, doing some spraying and stuff like that. So anyway, that was like a good sign, you know what I mean? So, and from that moment forward, Fernando and I got along great. And then we would go to customers' homes, do action work on the pianos, and I started realizing what I was taught by my family, even though they were good. Now, my uncle was very good action guy, but he passed away when I was about 2 years into the business, so I didn't get to learn enough from him. But Fernando was all day, every day for 40 years at that time doing actions. And I was like, oh, factory, once in a while guy, it's two different things. So learning from Fernando, we got along great. And he started doing the action rebuilds for us. And then once again, we got into the soundboards and so on and so forth. But that opened my mind to, Toby, think about it. Really, really think about it. You could, when the time comes, just keep an open mind with bringing people in, because I was going to bring people in. That's one of the reasons why I opened the shop. But it was one of those things where I was kind of a little arrogant in the sense that I do everything myself and blah, blah, blah. I had to take a step back, and thank God I did. Look where we are. It was all the decisions you make in life, whether it's in business, personal, religious, whatever it is. You kind of got to think back to those times when you made a decision, and was that a good decision? Was it a good decision? You don't know, and only time will tell with that. Obviously, that was a great decision.
Yeah. Certainly.
Because he's one of the biggest reasons why this shop is here, and then Andy is also, because they are the ones that, they're helping me.
They led the way.
Yeah,
They help you lead your way.
And I'm learning that, okay, these people are helping me. Now I need to help other people. And then you keep doing that. And you do good, you get good. You do bad, you get bad. That's kind of how I look at it. Without them, it just wouldn't exist.
How grateful the world should be for people like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because he could have Andy could have been like, not trying to help us out.
Yeah, or even worse, that's my guy. He can't have him.
Right.
No, not for any good reason. Just I don't want him to have him.
Yep. And it was kind of funny because Fernando, when he first came down, of course, he was younger, so he would do work for other people, other dealers. And he goes, no, Toby, I only work for you.
Oh, you make it so easy.
If I've got to do it, I want it easy, and if I want it easy, I want it just as easy for everybody else.
That's perspective. Something that all of the factory workers would talk about was whether or not their foreman did time on the bench. Because if you did time on the bench, you get it, and if you wear a tie, you don't get it.
Yeah.
You wear a tie?
I used to. And I didn't get it back then.
Wait. Where? There's a picture.
Yeah.
No, there's no tie.
No
tie.
Close. He's just taking off.
Okay, so
I don't have anything against ties. I got a tie. I'm just not wearing it.
So the reason why I wore a tie was because my family did. My dad and my uncle and my grandfather, when they would go to tune a piano.
Yeah.
And I did it because I was a lot skinnier, so I didn't mind my shirt being tucked in. Now I hate it. And I was young. I'm in an older man's profession. I'm trying to just, I'm being respectful. I'm in your home. So I would say for the first 10 to 15 years, I wore a tie. Now, when I go to, I still don't wear a tie at concerts anymore, but I would definitely be a jacket.
Formal.
Real formal at a concert, because I'm thinking the old school way. Then I'm hearing about these technicians that are going to customers' homes in flip-flops and shorts and this and that and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like,
Some people take it to
I
the
don't
extreme.
wear flip-flops.
So I can talk about this a little. I do wear sandals most of the time, but it's because in the Northeast, you always take your shoes off when you go to someone's house, especially in the city. So if I wore shoes, I'd be tying my shoes 6 times a day. God, would that take forever?
Skechers.
That's true. I saw. I didn't want to say anything.
They ask us to wear, the
You
boot
wear the
covers.
booties? Yeah.
Can't do it.
No.
No,
We
I don't.
can't.
I've had one woman ask me to take my shoes off and then put booties on, and my feet were sweating and all. I was like, nah, no, thank you. But Dan Levitan, you're familiar with? Yeah. So Dan Levitan is a really well-respected piano technician in New York City, and he talks about wearing his tie and not having to take the service entrance. A lot of the buildings in Manhattan, there's an entrance for the people, and then there's the entrance for the service workers. And if you're not wearing a tie, they assume, and you have a backpack or a toolbox or something like that, they assume that you're a service person, and you have to go down a basement and check in at a desk, and they call the elevator down, and it's a whole thing. So
That makes sense.
sometimes you got to look the part. Yeah.
Right.
And actually, I recently started sewing. I made my hat, I made my jacket, I made my pants, and it's a little bit of a research project, both from the aspect of pattern drafting, of making things. One of Francis, the belly man that I used to work with, started his career actually as in the garment industry. All of the curves and the intentionality of it lends itself very, very well to piano work, specifically the carpentry work.
Huh.
Yeah, I mean, knowing how tight a curve's supposed to be, when it's supposed to end, where the button's supposed to be, where the pins are supposed to be, it all has to do with making accurate patterns and then be able to execute those patterns. And then just like any other fabric worker, or really factory worker, punch it out, punch it out, punch it out, punch it out, and then learn how to do it efficiently. That, and also, I don't know, I don't want to go down the crazy rabbit hole, but all of the clothing is made of plastic. Polyester is in everything. We're literally walking around in plastic bags. I just came to this realization the other day. And believe it or not, polyester smells, body odor in polyester grows far faster than natural fibers. Wool is naturally odor resistant. Linen, natural odor resistant. Cotton, less. But so here I am running around the city in all my clothes because it's like kind of cold out, but not really. And I'm in customers' houses as a laborer and I'm worrying about smelling, right? And I'm also trying to look formal enough that I don't have to take the service elevator, right? And then I'm looking at the price of clothing, and I buy, Cool KUHL. They're like an American outdoor workwear company, whatever. I don't know. I'm going to buy a $120 pair of pants because, well, why not? I ripped them in 10 days.
Wow.
My jeans cost me $12 to make. This vest cost me $6 to make. If I get glue on it,
All right.
I'll make another one. It doesn't really matter. And
I got extra material.
yeah, and it's interesting. I've been doing a bit of research into garment making of like the pre-industrial to post-industrial, and so that's like 1870 to about 1930. Do you know the dates off the top of your head of the Steinway factory?
As far as when they first started?
When they first started?
1853.
1853. Yeah. Do you know when they moved from Manhattan to Astoria?
No.
1873.
Okay.
So that's the pre-industrial era, right?
Right.
This is a time.
So you're looking the part.
You're right. Not only am I looking the part, but I'm getting in the mindset of the people who built the piano, right?
Yeah,
it's all crafts. It's all industrial technique. And I think that Bible, the Steinway Bible I was talking about, like I said, I haven't read it. But if I were writing that Bible, the instruction manual for a factory that was going to outlive a generation, I would probably write down what prerequisites I would want for each of my workers, right? A carpenter should have a carpentry background. Maybe a piano tuner should have a piano background.
Right.
And maybe somewhere they wrote down that a belly man should have a garment industry background. I don't know. But at that time, pre-industrially, you were taking artisans who were making products in small homes and small shops. The first Steinway pianos were made in what room of his house?
Kitchen.
In the kitchen, right? And then they took that recipe pre-industrially, and then they figured out how to manufacture it at large scale.
Mm-hmm.
From 1850 to 1870, they were in Manhattan. And then in 1870, they ramped up production. They needed a larger plantation. We recently worked with some of the Bosendorfer technicians, and they were saying that the growth of Bosendorfer happened right around the same time. 1850s it started, and then in 1873, they moved the factory from one location to a larger facility where they can make larger pianos. So looking at the piano industry, pre-industrial, post-industrial, looking at the garment industry, pre-industrial, post-industrial, looking at how people draft curves, piano scale. Don't even get me started about piano scale. They didn't have calculators.
Right. Yep.
I mean, the
all
equation
engineering.
for inharmonicity is so dense.
They had it so much harder to come up with the stringing scale and how long the string's got to be and where it's got to go and how the bridge and this and this and
Pencil and paper.
But we take that for granted.
But not only is it pencil and paper, I think it's one step further. I think it's pencil and paper and
Knowledge.
old school craftsmanship knowledge. Because look at a 100-foot long wooden sailboat that's got a beautiful curve down it.
Oh, absolutely.
And honestly, you sit on the intercoastal and you watch the boats go by, designed in a computer, designed on paper, designed on a computer. You could just see the shapes of the blocks and the curves. And I think that the organic way of drafting these things, the scale, the clothing of the old suits, all this stuff, I think the organic way gives us finer, rounder curves than the digital way. That's oral tuning. You get a cleaner stretch. That's photography, film versus digital, music, tape versus digital. I mean, it's all the square truncation of the curve versus the roundness of it.
And what else is included in that between the pencil and paper and the engineering part of it? The mistakes.
Sure.
Didn't
Well,
get it
absolutely.
right the first time.
Sure.
You know, I mean, think about it. How
Yeah.
many times were
Yeah.
the mistakes made? Okay, we're going to put this 15 wire, start the piano at 15 wire and then go up and blah, blah, blah. And that didn't sound good. So let's back it off to 14 and a half and then 13. Oh, 13 sounds good. 12 and a half.
That's
And
a
then-
better learning environment than just going da 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 da.
Yeah,
You
well,
know,
it's like
go
when
by-
I was in Key West. You know, you had these shipyards, and they started building ships out of concrete. And the Cubans going, "Oh, that's no good. It's gonna go straight to the bottom." Well, no, you got displacement.
Right.
So a concrete ship will float as long as there's displacement.
You ever jump off the cement ship in Bimini?
I've never just jumped off of a concrete ship at all.
Oh, have you ever heard of the cement ship? So if in Bimini South, maybe about 40-minute boat ride south of South Island, there's a cement ship from the 30s that's up on a reef, and half of it's underwater and half of it's over water. And it's cool because you can like swim through the wall, and you're like wading in this. It looks like Waterworld with Kevin Costner. Yep. It's like straight out of Waterworld.
Oh, wow.
But you can kind of like get up to the top, and it's like a 3-story jump off, and like get your tetanus shot.
First thing I'm thinking.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but what you're talking about, mistakes and refining the recipe, and to circle back to kind of the first thing I was talking about, which was the bridge between the intellectual side and the gaining experience, right? If you just talk to the engineers at Steinway, the intellectual side, they're like, no, the paper's right. Just build what's on the paper, right? And you talk to the other people, and they're the people who have to.
Fix.
I struggle to find the right word because how
Improve?
about fit? They have to fit,
Mhm.
and that's what it's called, pin block fit,
Mhm.
right? It's called fitting the soundboard. It's called fitting all of it is about fitting. And something about sewing has also been teaching me that is you make the pattern a little bit big, and you cut it, and then you put it on the person, and then you fit it.
Right.
Right. The engineer is going to spend 1,000,000 years making the pattern perfect.
Right.
And then I'm going to eat one extra donut. And then it's not
All
going to
goes to hell
fit.
from there.
Right?
Yeah.
So where is the time best used? Right? Is it at the knowledge or the experience? I think a little bit of knowledge to get you started, and then an environment where you can gain experience. I think this is top. I think you provide this here, by the way.
Well, and the thing is that when you who's the worst person that could be a manager or running a company is the person that doesn't know exactly what goes into it. Now, there's business side. Okay, that all well and good, and that I'm not saying anything about anybody in particular. What I'm saying is that I think the reason why we are successful and why we do what we do is because I did it all from the very beginning, and I personally sanded pianos, stripped them, and strung them, and dampers, and action, so on and so forth. And I understand what goes into it, so I have a better understanding of what other people are going through when they have to do whatever task that is. And that's why we're always evolving and trying to make things easier, for stair moves and flipping pianos a certain way that I won't say because I don't want to give it away.
Said it though, didn't you?
What?
Kind of said it though, didn't you?
No, I didn't.
You can edit that out.
But you got to keep, you got to keep evolving. You got to keep,
Absolutely.
growing.
Well, I think that there was an era where CBS owned Steinway, certainly. Right?
Mhm.
I would imagine that when Mr. Steinway was walking down the factory floor, people probably, they knew that we need
Right.
to be respectful. This is the man. We're here because of his vision. I wonder if the people snapped too the same way when the CBS owned Steinway and when those executives were walking down the hall. I wonder, but
Don't know.
Mr. Hamilton, when he walks through the area, I can see the way that your crew respects you, and I can see more importantly how you respect your crew.
Mhm.
And wow, That's
Wow.
Well,
I don't want to speak for y'all, but I will.
well,
We appreciate it.
I think it's all a generation thing. I know we got to wrap this up, but real quick, I think it's a generation thing too, because it's the same thing back in school. Kids used to respect their teachers. They used to respect police. Now they don't.
Not
You
at
know,
all.
so it's kind of like a generational thing, where we are very fortunate here because we all do respect each other. We respect our boundaries, and when a boundary has been crossed, that person lets that person know the boundary was crossed, and it's okay, because you don't know, until you know the person. But we all respect each other here, and that is why we all get along.
And you're all putting food on each other's table at the end of the day. Like, if the team doesn't make it, y'all gonna starve. I mean, hopefully not. But,
nah, that won't happen here. So, Ben, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Easy,
We appreciate you coming.
Yeah, it's good. It's great to meet you.
Yeah,
Yes.
and
Fun. When are you coming down next?
hopefully no one dies this time. But yeah, no, soon.
He's going to come to work for us next month. But
for a week every month.
My
for a
goal
week.
is my goal in the next couple of years is to be able to facilitate more time with my family, and yeah, certainly this is an environment where I can continue to build my crafts, continue to put food on my table, and spend a little bit of time with my loved ones. So,
And
quality of life.
so we'll see you next month.
As long as you put a good piano out for me, we'll talk about it. Yeah.
We got plenty out here.
Yeah.
and you being
This
here,
man here has 7 storage units ready for you.
All right. Well, I got a whole lifetime of work.
but even while you were
definitely
here, I learned something from you.
Yeah.
Even talking on the phone with somebody, you learn something when you talk with them. If you listen twice as much as you speak, because you got 2 ears and 1 mouth, you can learn a lot more than what you say. And you can also learn that when you're saying something, for me, I'm like, oh, I did know that. Actually, okay, I didn't realize I knew that, when you're saying it to someone. But, Ben, thanks very much, man. It's been a blast. I appreciate it. And everybody, please follow us on YouTube and Spotify and Facebook and everything else in between.
Instagram.
Yep. Do you have a website?
Check out bencrosspiano.com. Yeah.
There you go. Okay.
Yeah.
Check him out and see the work that he does, because you got a lot of good videos on Facebook.
Yeah. My website's got a section called Tricks of the Trade, which are kind of just time-lapse videos of me doing everything, hanging hammers, doing key level, fixing a bridge, travel burning and spacing with the fire, all of it. No, it's my goal is to just really show the world how much I love pianos, kind of the way that Fernando is. So,
Awesome.
So follow him, follow us, and everybody have a good night.
Have a good night.
thanks.
Take care, guys.